This episode of MSP Chat is brought to you by Datto BCDR, the all-in-one backup and disaster recovery solution built for MSPs. Let's be real. Your clients don't care about backup. They care about uptime, no disruptions, no lost data, no downtime. That's where Datto BCDR comes in. With built-in ransomware protection, instant virtualization, and 24/7, 365 human support, Datto helps you keep your clients running even when disaster strikes. You get fast, reliable recovery in a single pane of glass to manage all your client backups locally and in the cloud. So if you're still juggling backup tools or patching together DR plans, it's time to upgrade. Visit Datto.com to see how you can deliver continuity as a service with Datto. Request a demo and see the solution live to appreciate the power, peace of mind, and the recurring revenue stream it can bring to you. And now, on to the show. And 3, 2, 1, blast off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of MSP Chat, your weekly visit with two talking heads talking with you about the services, strategies, and success tips you need to make it big in managed services. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm Chief Analyst at Channel Master, the organization responsible for this show. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, our CEO and Chief Strategist at Channel Master. His name is Erick Simpson. Erick, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Rich, as both you and I have taken a pit stop in between travel. We were traveling last week. This week we're in the pits, recharging, refueling, getting tires changed for the new track strategy. And then next week we are on the road again. So I'm just trying to catch up in between all of this crazy juggling that we're doing.
Once again, we are both West Coasters. Once again, out to the East Coast next week for DattoCon, where, among other things, on Monday, October 6th, we will be moderating a panel at the sort of Autotask Community Live pre-day event built into to DattoCon. So that's around 3 p.m. Eastern, if I remember right. Look it up. Join us there. We've got 3 MSPs on the stage with us talking about their tips and tricks for operational excellence using AI and automation, but other techniques as well. Going to be a really interesting chat, and it's going to be a really interesting event. I know that. I don't know what Kaseya/Datto will be announcing, but it'll be plenty, and I'm looking forward to finding out what it is and probably talking about it on the next episode of the show. But for now, let's dive into our story of the week here, which, surprise, surprise, is AI related. And in particular, and I'll preface where we're going with this, Erick, by saying I don't consider either one of us to be like AI boosters, let alone accelerationists. Like, it's not our job to get people on board the AI train and turn them into believers and so on. But folks in our audience are probably familiar with a study that was published out of MIT a few weeks ago, and that quite loudly and famously found that 95% of pilots, essentially proof of concept projects around AI, fail. Got a lot of media attention. I keep hearing people in our industry citing that number. And the reason I want to talk about it a little bit is because I want to make sure that, again, we're not AI boosters, but I do want to make sure nobody in our audience sees that number and thinks, I told you so, it's snake oil, not going there. Because I really don't think that's the conclusion to draw there. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the study. And I'm not saying that it's BS or worthless. It does have some issues, though. So the finding, basically, about the 95% failure rate is based on 52 interviews. We do a fair amount of market research for our clients at Channel Master. Erick, I know I would be a little reluctant to make a big, loud proclamation like 95% of projects fail based on 52 qualitative interviews and nothing essentially quantitative to back that up. The public, the general public, can't see very much about those 52 interviews, so it's a little bit hard to see what they heard that led them to say this was a failure. Here's how they defined success or failure. I'm quoting from the study. Success or failure was determined by whether there is a measurable P&L impact within 6 months of an AI pilot's launch. A couple of issues there. And remember, they're talking mostly to larger businesses. 6 months is kind of aggressive for a pilot to be having a measurable P&L impact. Two products, time frame and the definition of success. So some real issues there. Now, that kind of makes the 95% number a bit of an outlier, but it doesn't mean that there's lots of evidence elsewhere that pilots are just succeeding left and right. So, anecdotally talking to people in the industry, I've heard there are problems with AI proof of concepts. Just recently, within the last 2-3 weeks, the 451 research arm of S&P Market Intelligence published some research in this area. They said 45.6% of the organizations they surveyed are in production with AI. Another 41.7% are in that pilot proof of concept stage. 46.2% of the people they surveyed said that no single enterprise objective had received a, quote, strong positive impact from the AI investment so far. So not a great number, right? Like 46.2%, no positive impact. That doesn't sound so terrific. First of all, it's about half the 95% number we were talking about before. And also, while it is difficult to find really good, I have done some research on this. It's not easy to find really good, solid data on the success rate for proof of concepts outside of AI. But the best numbers I've seen suggest it's a little under 50%, which is what 46.2% kind of sounds like. So, in short, Eric, it's not like there's some giant problem around getting value out of AI. We're still early days. People are trying to figure out how to do it. We're seeing perfectly normal success and failure rates based on as good a set of data points as we can find right now. And according, I'll cite one more study for you. According to some research from OpenText, 92% of MSPs report business growth from AI interest among their customers, and 96% are expecting further growth this year. So this is a market that's working for plenty of people out there right now, even if it is early days and evolving. So next time somebody throws the MIT 95% number at you, here's what you send back the other way.
Rich, it's as you rightly mentioned, we do a lot of market research for our clients at Channel Mastered. We do a lot of channel surveys. We do partner focus groups. We meet with internal teams. Those items that you raised are concerning. Only having a very, very small sample size for data. Number one. Number two, 6 months. I mean, POCs typically last that long or longer before anyone decides whether this is a viable solution for a new technology to start deploying broadly. And number three, I'll add, this is not a proven technology. It's not like, oh, it's an M365 migration. We do those in our sleep. We know quickly within 6 months that there is going to be ROI because we're not figuring out how to configure, deploy, manage, and maintain a new technology. This is already baked. It is a proven solution. So it's interesting. I also read those statistics, and until you kind of raised these issues, I just thought, well, that's one study, right? I mean, think about how many studies need to actually occur in order for someone to, have enough data to make up their own minds. And I will say this too, Rich, because of that phenomenon and because of the buzz around AI, we know that a very high percentage of businesses and enterprises are adopting AI, want to adopt AI. There's some risk there, which I will cover in my tip of the week this week.
Well, let's go right there. Yeah, you picked a great tip of the week, given what we were just talking about. Dive right in, Eric.
So it's all about having poorly aligned client expectations around AI and more broadly tech innovation, Rich. So, as MSPs, sometimes we are the the dog that's being wagged by the tail, right? Which is the client. Client wants something. We want to please the client. We, go to bat and try to figure it out on our time and our dime, because sometimes when we're not at a level of, project management, deployment, and maturity where we say, something to a client like, well, you know what? This is new technology. We're going to do a proof of concept first. We're going to work diligently together through these phases to determine what the best way to roll this out is, to keep it secure, to have some governance around it, to make sure that we are listening to everyone in the organization before we begin deploying this thing. Because sometimes we do these things in a vacuum. Heck, Rich, I'll fess up. We did this in my MSP. It's like a client. I remember this one time a client wanted a liquor control system, and they said, "You guys do that kind of thing?" And our sales professional said, "Absolutely." Came back and we said, "What is a liquor control system?" Anything, right? We had to partner up with somebody that delivered it. Basically, it's the thing that measures, how much pour for every liquor goes into drinks and things like that. So it addresses shrinkage and that kind of thing. But we had no idea what it was. So MSPs want to please clients. We are more apt to say yes than no, especially if it's a sales-led conversation, right? There's always that, kind of battle between sales and engineering. It's like, you told them what? So let's talk a little bit about how these MSPs should approach this, because they're being pushed, Rich, by their clients to adopt these AI solutions, or in their QBRs or their, VCIO or VCTO meetings, or they're identifying that there is AI rampant in the environment that we had no idea was in there. I mean, think about all the free chat bots that are out there and things like that, and the risk that puts the client and the MSP under, right? Because without proper governance, that data can be made available publicly through the chat bot. So that's not good stuff. So 3 tips. First of all, let's educate ourselves as MSPs. Let's find other folks that are delivering solutions. And these are early days, like you said, Rich. It's early days. There's not a lot of solid baked solutions for these verticals, but we're seeing movement in this area, right? We're seeing organizations standing up services and solutions to bring AI to the market. I think I spoke on another episode recently about my sister-in-law who works in the medical field and healthcare, and they are being bombarded by AI specialists that deliver AI solutions for healthcare to mine data and get better information and things like that and make decisions. So that's happening. So let's educate ourselves on what's out there. How do we approach these conversations, Rich, from a risk averse perspective? Pilot some of these programs first with a small subset of clients and a small number of users within that client organization. Gather all the data. Don't assume this is what the client wants. Understand what the need is, understand what they're looking to achieve, and then consult with your upstream vendors, strategic partners, folks in the know that are in that area and delivering that if you're not doing it yourself already, and partner up early with someone to do the first couple of pilots and POCs. And don't promise a thing to a client other than we're going to measure the deployment and measure the effect and understand from this small pilot what the larger solution needs to look like, and then move forward carefully after that. Set clear AI beliefs and boundaries. So this is interesting, right? What does the client believe the AI is capable of? It's not George Jetson time, right? It's not Star Trek where we can talk to the computer and, well, we've got a little bit of Siri, Alexa, and AI kind of all competing there. We're not there yet, right? But what does the client expect? Set clear beliefs. Here's what we're going to. Maybe there is a feature that the client really wants that AI will deliver, but we've got to crawl before we walk and run. So be very careful. Meet with the client regularly. Measure. Do phase reviews until you're comfortable moving forward. And again, don't try to figure it out on your own dime and your own time. Partner with some experts. Get the client to pay for that proof of concept or that pilot. They are so keen on the technology, their budget should reflect how keen they really are.
So a couple of different things there. So first of all, one interesting finding in that MIT study that we didn't touch on before is that while, per their really kind of broken standard, these big enterprise AI deployments aren't, or pilots rather, aren't doing so well. There's a ton of shadow AI usage within the businesses they looked at. We've spoken about that in the podcast before. And though, people using sort of personal AI products like GPT at work are saying it's making them more productive. Like that kind of AI deployment is working. So in terms of where you can kind of begin with a client, it doesn't have to be some big digital transformation kind of project. It can be bringing in Copilot and creating a taste for what AI can do that opens them up to something bigger and more ambitious that you can gently, as you said, step into. The other thing I'd be curious to hear an additional thought on, in terms of setting the right expectations with the customers, what they believe and what you're telling them. I'm thinking back to where you started, where the salespeople want to close a deal and who knows what they're going to say. Any advice in terms of making sure your salespeople are communicating, setting the right expectations with customers and not setting you up for disappointing the client?
Yeah, that's a whole other tip of the week, Rich. That's kind of that sales engineering phenomenon that has to happen where if it's a new technology that we're promoting, I mean, absolutely have a wingman or wing woman at your side that can kind of help guide those conversations. The technical team values what the sales team does. It's sometimes in the day-to-day, it's that miscommunication and misalignment of getting the sales team trained and comfortable in expressing the features and benefits of a solution, but also understanding what the guardrails are around it, what to say, what not to say, and how to say that. So early on, having these meetings, having someone on the engineering team ride shotgun would be super valuable. The first 4 or 5 conversations, absolutely, so that there's I call it the dance. It's kind of like a tango, right? The salesperson is leading and the engineer is kind of following, and then they switch a little bit. There's got to be a communication. There's got to be a simple way to reflect that there's a true partnership and a true focus on managing that conversation, rather than making the common mistakes where the salesperson is saying something and the engineer says, no, that's not how it works. And you're arguing with each other in front of the client. But like I said, maybe we'll do that tip of the week next week, but there has to be some synergy and some understanding. And the only way to grow together and to be better at what you do is to have that true partnership between a sales resource and an engineering resource that work together for the common good of the client, but also for the organization.
Makes total sense. I like it. Okay, well, more to come on that topic, folks. But for now, Eric and I are going to take a quick break. When we come back, as we mentioned before, our last trip back east was to Greenville, South Carolina. So we've got 2 interviews coming to you from the TD SYNNEX Inspire show that we attended in Greenville. The first is with Ed Morales. He's the VP of AI and High Growth Technology Strategic Business Development at TD SYNNEX. Perfect person to talk about AI with. The second is with Tracy Holtz. She's the VP of Cloud at TD SYNNEX. Perfect person to discuss another high growth market with. We've got 2 interviews for you coming up. I chuckle a little bit because at the very beginning of the first of those 2 interviews with Ed Morales, you're going to hear me literally forget what city I'm sitting in because Eric and I have been doing so much travel. It was just, I don't know where I am, and it kind of doesn't matter. I was at a TD SYNNEX show. It was great. We had an awesome conversation with Ed Morales and Tracy Holtz, and you're going to hear all that coming up right quick after the break. And welcome back to part 2 of this episode of the MSP Chat Podcast, our Spotlight interview segment, where we are delighted to be doing the first of an interview twofer here at the TD SYNNEX Inspire show in where are we?
Greenville, South Carolina.
South Carolina, thankfully.
I've been here all week. I know.
That kind of week, yeah. We're delighted to be joined by Ed Morales. He is the Vice President of AI and High Growth Technology Strategic Business Development, which makes you the perfect guy to talk about AI with for our audience.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here again. Good to see you again.
We met a few months back. I'm going to circle back to that
Okay.
actually at the end of the interview. But for folks who don't know you, haven't met you before, tell them a little bit about yourself, your role at TD SYNNEX.
Okay. Thank you again for the opportunity. So Ed Mraz. So I've been with TD SYNNEX for almost 22 years. I've been operating in distribution and all that time. Current focus right now is on helping help both our vendors and our resale partners engage in this area of AI, coupled with areas around cloud security and data and analytics. So really my role is to really be the facilitator of enablement for both parties and kind of be that conduit, working with our teams to be able to deliver that value.
So yesterday morning, Raina Thompson, president of TD SYNNEX North America, was the first speaker on stage. Mm-hmm. And the key thing she wanted to make sure everybody heard was that, all of the stuff that you folks are going to be talking about with the attendees at Inspire,
right,
and everything you do across the year rolls up to one idea, she said. We believe in the power of people to drive technology forward. So talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what TD SYNNEX is doing maybe specifically in AI, or how it kind of reflects that mission.
Well, it reflected in two different ways. One, how we're actually leveraging AI internally to streamline operations and making the experience with the partner better for them. Obviously, there's a couple of things, and I know we're going to talk about MSPs, but there are a couple of things that they're interested in doing. One, they want to optimize their business and optimize operations. So we're doing things within. That's why this whole partner first tool came out, to be able to have one portal for partners to come into and leverage the full breadth of the operational capabilities we have within our organization and help them grow their business as a result of being able to scale across all these different areas that we have focus. But secondarily is leveraging AI in the means of helping partners understand where they play. One of the interesting things that's taking place, and this is where I think we personalized it, is that AI has become it's overwhelming for a lot of partners. So where do they start? You keep hearing all this work about Gen AI and agentic AI, and we have a lot of partners that are traditionally played in infrastructure or cloud or security, and this whole agentic AI is really foreign to them. So what we've done is, and we'll talk about it shortly, is create a methodology to bring it down to where they're at, understand where they're at, and then leading them on that journey to wherever they want to build a business, because there's opportunity across the full stack, and there's need of expertise across the full stack as well.
Well, Ed, you brought up two topics that are near and dear to our audience's hearts and our hearts, MSPs and AI in that last answer. So, being a former MSP, mm-hmm. I'm just amazed at kind of this evolution that we've seen going from, hardware resale in the early 2000s to, services. Now we're looking at AI. So where do you see the biggest plays for MSPs and MSPs regarding AI now and in the next couple of years?
Well, and it plays right into where their sweet spot. And this is where I think part of what we're doing, and if I may speak to kind of our methodology, mm-hmm. and I'll answer your question. Within Destination AI, we've identified three types of partner types. One we call aware, which is a partner now who's become opportunistic. They know they have to sell this, so they may be selling a Copilot license on an AI PC, right? But they have not really shown where they're going to place their bets. We have a second tier of partner that's called ready. These are partners who have made some initial investments, may have a couple of folks on staff that are doing some customized modeling, but still they haven't really fully monetized their go-to-market. And the third area is around the experts, and that's a very small subset. Those typically came from the analytic group who naturally did a transition, or the ones selling these NVIDIA SuperPods that have developed they have data scientists and staff who can do the full implementation. What we're doing is, as a result, what we've really realized is that we've been able, with our Destination AI solution grade approach, we've plotted out technology based on two criteria: the complexity of the technology and the complexity of the sales motion. And as a result, we can then align certain technologies to the partner based on where they're at now and where they want to be. So going back to your question, infrastructure. You cannot deploy an AI environment on old infrastructure. You have to modernize. And so the part of this is not, we're just talking about the what, it's the why. So why do you need to modernize your servers, your storage, your networking? in order to, because you got to be able to handle the computational, the large computation, the velocity of those environments. Plus, you've got to, for cyber resiliency, data governance, and data compliance. So as an MSP, and the one constituent is going to be reliant, and we'll be talking about it a little bit more, is the SMB customer, because they're going to be reliant because they can't afford their own data centers or hybrid. They're going to need to rely on the MSPs to do this. So them being able to internally optimize their own infrastructure, optimize their own process is going to be key. One. Then providing those assessments to their downstream customers, trying to identify where those use cases can be applied. So think about the first kind of deployment. I think you saw the gentleman from Microsoft speak here of those areas of focus around the SMB segment of what's available to them. So there are discrete use cases available to them, but I think the first step is understanding for our partners, working with us to understand where they play currently and how we can optimize their business to deliver value to their customers. Because there's a lot more we can go into as we have this conversation with. I'm pretty excited about the topic.
Yeah, we're pretty passionate about ourselves.
I want to follow up on infrastructure a little bit. That's what we spoke about when we first met, actually, a few months back. And it showed up as an area getting pretty strong partner adoption and the Direction of Technology report, which was published in conjunction with the show this week. Like you said, I mean, it's easy to understand what that means for an enterprise customer that has a data center, and they're going to need a whole different set of servers and storage arrays and so on to make AI work, and it's very different for the SMBs. So for the MSPs in our audience who are serving SMBs and understand in a theoretical sense, there's infrastructure that needs to be in place before you can really put AI to work. What does that look like? What are they actually kind of building, delivering, servicing for their clients?
Well, it's twofold, I would say. One, first that it's if they're developing and they have their own managed services where they have their own data centers that they're providing that service themselves. It's actually modernizing those servers, that networking, and the storage required on that, including the security layers and all these things that are required. Because now you're introducing a whole new element of complexity, and as a result of complexity, you're obviously going to need to be able to secure it in a different way. But additionally, if you're a CSP, an MSP that's selling cloud services, the interesting thing is that, and you've probably seen that, if you've ever seen the data, the CAGR growth, there's been a huge growth of infrastructure sales over the course of the last couple of years because all the hyperscalers have modernized their data centers with these new technologies because they knew at some point they're going to need to be able to deliver AI, and they couldn't do it either. So as an MSP, you're going to be able to deliver in two different modes, and it's all depending on the cost of compute for the end customer. In some cases, the customer can be able to do these, basically leveraging the infrastructure that the MSPs themselves offer, but they can also develop it or deliver things through the cloud, because those cloud providers have all developed their own and modernize their own infrastructure to deliver this through the MSP to the customer, and that's where the SMB is going to really need to play, because it's going to be cost prohibitive for them to be able to do this on their own.
Oh. So Ed, at your spring high growth conference, an IDC speaker said, I'm reading here, that infrastructure spend tends to hold up when IT spending slows for economic reasons.
Yes, I remember.
Has that been true this year?
Yes, we've actually seen a growth of servers and storage, primarily within the enterprise class, because they're the ones that they have that immediate need, and of course, because of the purchases that we're seeing within some of the larger hyperscalers, some of the larger MSPs have modernized their data center. So and here's the thing, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Because again, you cannot deploy an AI application all infrastructure. It just won't work. It's like, I always use analogies like putting a jet engine on a paper airplane. You can get the best app, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of the POCs. The questions never get asked. They're talking about the use cases, which a lot of them, I don't think they really realize, they being end customers are really sure. They say, I need to deploy AI, but what exactly, right? And I've kind of got some ideas regarding some of the challenges there too. But more so that no one's really asking, well, what are you going to run this on? And so that's why you need this, you need to modernize. So the answer to the question, yes, we're seeing that trajectory happen. And we're going to see it over the course of the next 5 years. The one area that I found fascinating is networking. AI networking. So I'll just give you an idea. So we were visiting the gentleman from visiting NVIDIA, and the gentleman who runs the Mellanox line. We asked the question, so how much of the network out there is AI ready? And he said 15%. I think he was being generous. Yeah. When you look at so AI enabled network, because you need that, it's got advanced capabilities that traditional networking does not have, and it's required to be able to handle all the traffic and the way all the data is being processed. AI networking in 2024 is 11 billion. It shoots up to 61 billion by 2030. By 2033, it's 143 billion. The CAGR growth of AI networking is almost 39% year over year. Whereas traditional networking is 9%.
Yeah, so managed services, and I'm somewhere between there.
Exactly. Yeah. And here's the thing: those skills. I think what happened when networking became somewhat commoditized, all the skills to be double deploy networking, those all kind of went away. They all started focusing on security and analytics. Those who start to practice and develop skills around AI networking are going to benefit, because I think it's a gap in capabilities and infrastructure. Understanding that skill, understanding how this all fits, and staging the environment for that is going to be a highly valid skill, I believe, within our channel and within partners.
A quick follow-up thought. I mean, we're hearing a lot about, where the careers are, and it's all about prompt engineering, data analytics, and all that. But there's a huge opportunity, it sounds like, from a networking and infrastructure side.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I would agree. And then it's not an or, it's an and. For those who have skills and have passion about the infrastructure, networking, I think more so not, there's a shortage of resources to be able to understand the technology first, but also to be able to deploy and then be able to manage that. Because then you're starting to really then you got to think about the full stack, because everything is now interacting with each other with AI. So AI facilitates that, but it also adds another layer of complexity. But understanding that if you look at the old OSI stack, right, that infrastructure layer is going to be key, and how it interacts with the data and the application. So that's why it's really key to understand all that. So those traditional guys who understand the full TCP/IP stack are going to benefit all again. So the old becomes new again, right?
I wrote a post on my blog about a year ago referring specifically to networking, but infrastructure beyond that is the AI gold mine hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
It's this.
You're really a man.
It's a huge piece of the story, and everyone goes straight to the software.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the missing value, and so that's what I'm saying. That's why when we start to have conversations with our partners and we show them the grid and say, look, well, here's Cisco's, or here's Dell, or here's HPE's that actually has Aruba or now Juniper networking in it, and they start to see that they're when they show the grid shows it plots out the products, and they start to see that, hey, you can play in infrastructure. You're already in the game. It's like the sense of relief. You just now need to sell differently, because it's not about the what, but the why, and then the how, because it's a little different sell than traditional sales. But we have that all available for the partner.
So per the Direction of Technology report, infrastructure is seeing good partner adoption. Let's look beyond the gold mine in plain sight for just a few minutes here. What else right now, where else in AI are you seeing momentum in the market today, and keeping maybe MSPs and their SMB customers foremost in mind?
I'll say two huge areas. The platform as a service that are in the AI platform as a service that all the hyperscalers and Microsoft, Google, and AWS have deployed. We're seeing a growth of those about 50% CAGR in the adoption, because it's through those platforms where the SMB is going to be able to participate in AI. Secondarily, where a lot of the MSSPs are going to be required is really around security, and we're seeing relative security for cloud, security for data, are roughly about, even within our own business, is around 20% quarter-to-quarter growth in AI deployments. Because as AI, as you probably saw, you've seen some of the speakers today, the bad actors are out there leveraging AI to do a lot of attacks, and SMBs are probably the most. They're probably attacked more than most people realize. Last night I saw was roughly about 50% of SMB customers are attacked, and unfortunately, most of those guys go out of business once they're attacked because they can't. The cost to regain is like 500. It was a lot. It was within the millions the last time I checked. So they lose credibility, they lose their business, and so it's important for MSPs to build up their roster of security for those end customers. And those are the two areas that I see kind of hyper growth right now.
Let's continue that thread, Ed, about the MSP. So what type of investment does an MSP or an MSP need to make in terms of hard dollars to take advantage of the AI opportunity? And then what types of skills do they need their teams to upskill to in order to serve this, take advantage of the opportunity for their SMB customers?
Yeah, well, again, it depends. I mean, like I said, is that not every MSP is created equal. So it's going to be based on kind of how they go to market and what value they're delivering to their end customer. Obviously, we're talking about our hardware refresh. There's going to be a cost of a refresh cost there. Obviously, a TD SYNNEX has financing options to help mitigate that cost, so that it doesn't become. We can turn that capex into an opex pretty quickly and readily, easily. And there's some really great programs we offer in that regard. Relative to skills, we just talked about networking. We talk about, and so it's understanding. Part of it is they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand that there's an opportunity there. I mean, like the gold mine. I mean, the fact that this is the most obvious thing that we see, but it's not propagated, is an area that I think that's because there's a lack of awareness. So our hoping is our enabling them on areas. Hey, if you're an infrastructure partner, here's places you can play. Matter of fact, one of our AI accelerators that we're coming out with initially was all based on use cases. We're actually creating one for AI infrastructure for cost of compute to help partners of all types, whether they're deploying it on behalf of an end customer or they're an MSP learning how to do this for themselves. That's one thing. A lot of these MSSPs or partners who want to get into security, there are a whole suite of tools now out there by a lot of our security vendors because they understand they need to be able to provide these capabilities down to their end customer. I think that skill set is going to need to be enhanced on providing SOC as a service, and enhance the threat detection. All these other things are required at the endpoint level. But the other thing that's going to be taking place is, and this is the new areas, really operational AI ops for those end customers, which is a new area. So if I see three tiers, and funny enough, it goes up that stack: the infrastructure, data, and application. So the answer to your question, it depends on the part. We have to where we engage and we assess them, and we can provide them that guidance on how they can make investments. So and the investments can be hard costs or investments in time, or just pivoting some of their current skills and just new areas of focus. And I think that's what we want to do, is trying to take the complexity out of it. And that's why if you ever see our destination, it's about guiding them up the mountain. We act in as a Sherpa to guide them through that stage. And depending where they're at, we will take them to base camp, and we'll take them to the next level and take them to the next one. And that's what we're designed to do. So I hope that answered your question. Great, cool.
There was a research study published earlier this week. It was written by IDC on behalf of Sage. They went out and they studied a bunch of channel partners. They sort of separated out what they called the high performers from the run-of-the-mill. And they said that 87% of the high performers they analyzed had a dedicated AI practice. Mm-hmm. And so I was curious just to get your thoughts. I mean, how advantageous is it for a partner to invest to that degree, to have an AI practice in the business? How advantageous, how important?
Well, I think in order to remain relevant for themselves and for their customers, an AI practice is not a nice to have. It's a need to have. And I think what we're talking about is, that we mentioned earlier, there is ability to take and build a practice around your areas of expertise, whether you're doing infrastructure, you're doing security, or you're doing analytics. So I think the profile of those who are developing the AI practice, I'm curious to see where they're focused on. But I would agree. I would say that it's very important now. And the cool thing about it, with the way we're going to market, any partner now, if they can develop a practice around AI infrastructure, they can have an AI focused resource, again, because it's not about selling the what, it's the how. And that's why I believe a practice lead at every different level for every firm is going to be important, because you're going to need it. It's AI is pervasive across all technologies. You can't avoid it anymore.
So yesterday on stage, Jessica McDowell, who we've had on the show before,
Yes.
said nobody
She's
seems
awesome.
to know. Yeah, she is. Nobody seems to know where to start with AI. So, Ed, for MSPs that need to get started with AI,
Yeah.
what's the first step they should take?
Well, I think understanding the opportunity, and I think this is one of the things we're trying to present to them, that all AI is not necessarily about agentic AI or Gen AI. AI, again, goes back to the full stack. And I believe our ability to introduce them to to the awareness that there's opportunity where they're at now is where I think that's where they can get started. And if they so choose to want to develop further skills around security or agentic, we can help them on that journey as well. Some of these technologies and the way the grid is built, the most complex ones are on the right and the least are on the lower left. But over time, the things on the right are going to start to move their way down, and new things are going to come up. At some point in time, agentic AI and these tools that are coming are going to become more ubiquitous. Over time, it's just because it's foreign to a lot of people right now. But these things are going to be developed to where I think they're going to be much more available for more customers to use. But first, let's get you an expert where you're at now. Let's get you selling, understanding what you need to do to help your business now and help your customers now, and introduce things that can help you on that journey to become more higher end, developing or delivering higher end. And by the way, you can develop an expertise just on infrastructure alone. You can be an AI expert on security alone, or data, or do all three. So the first step I would suggest, if they happen to be a TD SYNNEX customer, come and engage us with Destination AI. Have us do an assessment with you. Let's have a discussion to understand your business, and then talk to you about where you can go on the journey. And I'm telling you, the one thing we do is we give our partners hope that they can play in this and show them on that vision to the top of the mountain, as we have in that, as we depict.
Well, Ed, we thank you very much for taking time out of a busy show to talk about AI with us. Before we let you go, though, I've got to do this. So we met in May at the High Growth Conference that TD SYNNEX did. I mentioned to some of your colleagues I was going to be interviewing you in a little bit, and they said, "Oh, Ed's a rock star," which I assumed they meant metaphorically.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, he's a recording artist. And I mean, sure enough, back at the hotel, I looked on Spotify. You have multiple albums. They're quite good.
Thank you.
Tell folks a little bit about that part of your life.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. So I was a professional musician in my 20s. Funny, a quick story is that I moved to Nashville to be a songwriter. One of my closest friends was a tech support manager at an IT company. I go visit him for lunch. I met the president. The next day, the guy calls me, "Hey, do you need inside job?" He said, "Yeah." So he hired me for inside sales job. Moved me to full time, and he said, "You never know, it might be a good career move." And here I am, 30 years later. But in all that time, the passion of writing music still stayed. So I have been playing and recording professionally since my 20s. I do have music on Spotify, Apple, pretty much every media out there. And thank you for being gracious about it. Yeah, I've been very passionate about this. And it's, I find in IT, there's a lot of musicians, and there are a lot of, because I've been approached by a lot of people in the show since they've been able to show some of the music. And it's been great to interact with people. It's just a passion that keeps me balanced. Because whether you're on stage, performing or speaking, or whether you're trying to, I talked about this analogy of kind of being in a band and putting together a team in IT. Everybody's got to play their part in order to play that song properly, right? And then it's not about playing parts; it's about playing the song. So that's one thing that I try to incorporate in a lot of the ways I go do this together. But yes, thank you for your kindness. So if anybody's interested, just look at Ed Morales on Spotify, and you'll see some of that music. And would be welcome to talk to anybody about this. If you have a passion, reach out. I'd be glad to kind of connect with you, because just live that passion, live that dream, because it's still there. If it burns in you, you got to do something with it.
I love that, Ed.
we'll link to some of that music in the show notes for the episode. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, for sure. Oh, well, I'm honored. I'm blessed. I just hit your mic, so I apologize.
Ed, once again, thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting conversation. We really appreciate it.
No, I thoroughly enjoy. I can't believe it was only 40 minutes. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you.
I'm glad that you're passionate about the topic.
Yeah, very cool. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the time. Appreciate you, Ed. Thank you.
So, folks, Eric and I are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Ed's colleague, Tracy Holtz. She's the Vice President of Cloud at TD SYNNEX. She is the second half of our TD SYNNEX Twofer Spotlight interview segment. Stick around. We got more to come. And welcome back to the second part of part 2 of this episode of the MSP Chat Podcast, our second Spotlight interview segment live from the TD SYNNEX Inspire show in Greenville, South Carolina. It's been such a week, Tracy, that I forgot where I was beginning of the earlier interview with Ed Morales, but now I'm thoroughly grounded, folks. We are so pleased to be joined by Tracy Holtz. She's the Vice President of Cloud here at TD SYNNEX, another huge market. Eric and I have known you for a long time. But for folks in our audience who do not know you, have not known you for a long time, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you're dear friends of mine, right, for many, many years. From Tracy Holtz, I've been in the industry for just north of 28 years, led our security business for many years, and then came over into what I actually spent a good bit of time in cloud when CSP and MSPs were just really being born, right? The evolution of moving VARs into MSP. So spent about a couple years there and then moved into security and then been in our hyperscaler space for the last several years. So really exciting, huge opportunity ahead of us all, continuously in the hyperscalers, but importantly around the new areas of growth, cybersecurity and AI. I'm just leading 2 of the areas.
So I kicked off the interview with Ed with exactly the same question. I'll give you a shot at this too. When Raina Thompson came on stage right at the beginning of day 1 of the event, the key thing that she really wanted to emphasize is that the guiding principle for everything you folks do at TD SYNNEX is this idea of believing in the power of people to drive technology forward. That is the vision. That's the mission for TD SYNNEX. How does that play out in cloud?
Oh, I think it's actually one of the greatest examples of it as well, in addition to AI. When you think about everything that our people across our hyperscalers team do around enablement to help enable our partners, whether that be pre-sales, design sales, engineering, where we're doing proof of concepts, true technical demonstrations, to upskilling our MSPs, and then really investing in them into these new technologies, and then hands-on really helping to enable them around agents as one way example. But we do that in so many different ways, right? Marketing is one extension of that, but definitely I would say our talent is the differentiator in our business. I get often told, and have been told many, many times over the last couple of days, that our team is the difference of why they do business at TD SYNNEX and the empowerment that we have brought back into their business for fueling their growth.
So Google had some stage time yesterday, and they talked about Google Cloud in the SMB. Now, understand that most MSPs are really focused on Microsoft. Where and how should they look at the Google opportunity for their clients?
Yeah, it's a great example. I mean, I think across all the hyperscalers, right, they all have tremendous cloud opportunities. But Google, particularly when you think about where they're going from an AI transformation, leading at the agent and into the workspace and applying that with Gemini, that's really the SMB opportunity. It certainly scales. Their SMB definition goes to enterprise, the lower end of enterprise. So it's a little bit different than how some other hyperscalers classify SMB, as well as like Microsoft has a huge proponent, very large install base, right? And that their definition of SMB is very different in terms of the users and things of that nature.
So we spoke about AI in the previous interview segment there. That's all everybody is talking about, obviously, these days. Security, top of mind for everybody. The other high-growth segment that you folks at TD SYNNEX focus on is cloud. And it's a little hilarious to me sometimes, the degree to which it's being overshadowed by AI. I mean, it is still a high growth market.
Yes.
Talk to people a little bit about where that growth is, the scale of that growth, and also what are the high growth segments that folks in our audience should be thinking about?
Yeah, and I love that you said that, right? AI is certainly all the buzz, and certainly very deserving so, right? It's the way that we are transforming our own lives, personally, professionally, and really helping to enable productivity and great of life-saving things in a lot of cases, right, around agents. However, right, when you still think about what the opportunity that sits in our hyperscalers and pure cloud and the IA and the infrastructure space, I mean, that today in our Azure business, as one great example, we're leading the globe in US at TD SYNNEX around our infrastructure business, right? Outpacing, some of our channel partners at 2x the growth, right? So doing some very cool things there. I would say definitely heavily focused on what are the current workloads that those partners have migrated to the cloud? Where's there's expansion opportunities? Where can we help them identify the financial savings through movement to the cloud? And it's a journey, right? It's sometimes there is larger workloads that you're migrating and you're going to get the fundamentally that savings over a 2-year opportunity. And so we spend that time and really working through that. And we fund and actually do quite a bit there around the migration services and helping our partners through that opportunity. So a huge opportunity across all hyperscalers, quite frankly, in the pure cloud space. And then there is marketplace. And I would say the TD SYNNEX differentiates there with what our Stream 1 empowers through syndication. And today that was highlighted on main stage, right? Microsoft as being the core component of that today and future expansion with the other hyperscalers, where we're syndicating the Azure Marketplace. And even now with agents, identifying those agents and syndicating that all the way through our Stream 1 platform and then ultimately to an end customer, depending on the engagement with the MSP and a partner.
Tracy, while selling licenses to customers is kind of, required by channel partners, it's really not where the money's at. So what kind of guidance can you give our audience around identifying all these pull-through cloud services that can be added on top to really get them that margin that they're looking for?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Eric. And I would say while licenses, or you look at the workspace that prominently exist in the cloud business, whether that be Google or Microsoft, there's rich incentives to drive net new customer business. And so that's where we're trying to help with our partners identify the propensity in their tenants to grow, upsell naturally and attach. For instance, like Copilot, M365, or chat, and leading with chat in one example. Certainly, Google has a very strong base there as well. There's back-end incentives, but more, and when you add services attached to that with support and post-sales implementation, you can richen your margin 35, 40%, right? That's absolutely where the productivity gains are gained.
So bundling services around those licenses.
Absolutely. It's a core component.
For that MRR, yeah.
We try every sale, we talk to our partners, and every opportunity we're always bundling in services and support and really helping to make sure our partners are doing the same and taking advantage of that opportunity downstream to their clients.
So coming back to AI a little bit here, there is an intersection between cloud and AI at Microsoft Copilot. So talk a little bit about how big an opportunity Copilot is, particularly for the MSPs in our audience.
Yeah, that's it's significant, right? Travis Walter was on stage this morning with Microsoft. He talked quite a bit extensively about Copilot and the opportunity in AI. When you think about Microsoft and putting together their AI innovation, it starts with Copilot chat, of really helping fundamentally everybody has access to AI if you're on Business Premium today with Microsoft. So you can access chat, you can get the feel for AI and the power of it, right? And that's really researcher in a lot of ways. Then you start to build out and identify where there's opportunities to really upsell into M365. And that's your core productivity. It's my assistant every day. It makes me smarter, makes me more productive, and it certainly at times, and I'll laugh about this, makes me sound better because it'll make me be a little bit more softer with a message at times. So I love that I have that ability, but it also makes what I used to spend hours doing presentations matter of seconds, right? Or if I'm doing research and really trying to analyze data and opportunities, it will then enrich in that. So I absolutely adore Copilot because I'm using multiple, I would say, AI tools, but it's truly is a differentiator to my day. But then when you start to really think about AI in general, it's then the agent. And this is where I get really, really excited because I like to, you know me, I like to really challenge myself technically. I'm dangerously technical from all of my years of security. So I'm actually taking AI classes at a local university. It's actually not local in Florida, but it's all about agent building. And I'm building my own agents. And I'm trying because I feel that that's something I can give back to my partners by truly doing it myself as well. But I also can give back to TD SYNNEX as well. But agents are the way of the future and the current, right? And so that starts with Copilot in terms of Studio. And there's all these great opportunities there to build agents. And so we're teaching and helping to enable our partners around agent building. And then future is those partners that have those skills and staff on board that can really build around Azure and build their own agents that which in return, we want to bring those agents back into our marketplace, syndicate those opportunities, and then help them through an AI accelerator program to bring them to market.
Yeah, Tracy, we agree that there's kind of the gateway opportunity is kind of Copilot, right? That leads into these additional opportunities for MSPs. So what's your sense for the percentage of Microsoft partners that are actually reselling Copilot? And for those that may not be reselling Copilot and see that opportunity, what kind of guidance would you give them?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I would say percentage, it's still a small percentage in our overall ecosystem, right? Because we have thousands of MSP, CSP partners in our Microsoft universe. When you think about that, it's still relatively about 15% ish, I would say. And then, but I would tell you that the percentage isn't really the right indicator because the conversations we're having and the skilling and the enablement we're doing around our partner ecosystem to get them enabled around data and security to then be able to sell Copilot efficiently and be able to have their plan, that's where the percentage goes incredibly high. And so the pipeline is there. The opportunity is there. It's a longer term, right? We're going to absolutely drive M365 Copilot, and we want to really absolutely triple our numbers and quadruple our numbers in partnership with Microsoft. But we want to absolutely see that, and it's going to continue over the multiple years.
A quick follow-up question, Tracy. You've spoken several times during our conversation about security, and we know that security is a big component when it comes to AI. So from your experience, your vast experience on the security side, can you just talk a little bit about that opportunity, how to frame up the conversation when we're talking to a customer as an MSP about bringing Copilot in and then those other security considerations that they can also deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. Security has to be on the forefront of every conversation with AI. I mean, it starts with your data. If you don't have your data first segmented and correctly aligned, then AI is going to be inefficient, right? And not be the greatest ROI in return. Or you're going to be pulling that through. And that's really hard. Security, absolutely, right? You have to, and we launched our SecOps opportunity in our Stream 1, which really helps to provide an MSP partner the visibility into their security posture in a very simple manner to show red, yellow, and green where they rank and their tenants rank in terms of security. And so then it also provides them some recommendations where there's immediate actions that they can take, and we help them through that. And then it also will show them where there's gaps and risk in their security today. And this is all around getting them ready for AI in addition to that. And yes, they can also fill in with Microsoft or other third party, depending on that partner's preference, around the different applications and security where they're weaker, right? Whether that be, obviously, you should absolutely have identity access management, right? I mean, there's core components of security that are absolutely necessary. When you move into the cloud, it's even, you have to secure every workload, you have to secure your AI, the future strategy of the architecture. So definitely Microsoft as being a core component with Copilot as an example, as E3, E5 and their suite of products, that is absolutely to me the hero motion of E5 with the strength of the security built into it. To me, that's your base minimum of it, where I feel you're most protected with AI in the future and wrapping around other architecture opportunities too in security. And then there's services. And an MSP can also take all of that in terms of get ready and help provide a service to their clients around helping them getting ready for AI. And that's also a services opportunity. And the data is a component of that too.
So we've spoken about Microsoft 365, Copilot, Azure and Hyperscaler, Google a little bit.
Yep.
Are there any other sort of overlooked, undervalued, because a lot of folks in the audience will be familiar with most of those. Are there overlooked, undervalued kind of cloud opportunities out there that you'd like to highlight?
You know, I think all of, the strength of the hyperscaler market is that's such a very large TAM opportunity, whether that's AWS, Google, and Microsoft. Each of them have such rich opportunities today, whether it's in the SMB all the way to the enterprise. And there's a solution of products within each of those, security being very prominent in every one of those hyperscalers. I think you're not going to stop seeing hyperscalers invest in security acquisitions, just given the market and the demands around AI and future strategy innovation. But I would also say that what's interesting is I would say we're seeing this correlation around dynamics, especially with AI. And if you think about the developers landscape, there's a huge proponent of developers and with Azure customers or getting them to be able to skill around Azure being the forefront of really the the Azure Foundry and the AI Foundry that I see there. And that core component to me is where there's some unique opportunity in the market. And so that starts with Power Apps and Power and the Dynamic Suite. So we're really seeing that be a very strong momentum for us and something that I'm trying to double efforts in focus around.
Tracy, really interesting conversation. We've covered a lot of topics around cloud, security, AI, agents, chat. For folks in our audience that want to take the next step, can you maybe give them 3 things to think about as they kind of explore how to take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say get in contact with TD SYNNEX. Certainly you want to take advantage of all the great enablement we bring to market. So we have practice builders, whether you're very at the beginning stages of AI, security, cloud, we can help you start to build that business, help you core foundationally what it means from a practice. And even if you're in the middle of, you're starting to really start to see that acceleration, but you're leaning towards AI, then we'll put you into the AI practice builder. So that's one example. I would also say just leverage our cloud, our hyperscaler cloud team. So we have a hyperscaler cloud agnostic team that can certainly help you really get you in contact with the right resources, the designated and dedicated resources we have around each of the hyperscalers, or fundamentally our shared resources that are very rich around all of our practice builders, accelerator programs, migration capabilities, services. So they're really the great opportunity to kind of lean in and then go into the TD SYNNEX ecosystem of all the tremendous value of our talent internally.
So before we go, I want to take advantage of this opportunity to ask you about something that occurred to me earlier today. Second day of general sessions, there have been a lot of TD SYNNEX executives on stage speaking. And it's been striking, it took me a little while, but it's been striking to me to realize that in an industry that continues to be pretty heavily male-dominated, how many of those leaders on stage are women?
Yes.
We need as many talented people in this industry as possible. For folks in our audience who would like to be part of getting more women involved in IT, any advice to them in terms of what you've seen here that they might be able to emulate?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question. So this is one that's very near and dear to my heart. I sit on our BRG for our Elevate committee, and I'm part of the board. But enriching our talent, but going out into local universities, even high schools, and speaking about technology and where there's career opportunities and empowering women to get involved, whether that started at cybersecurity, because I can tell you that my first cybersecurity event I ever went to, I was one of 3 women at the entire conference. It was extremely male dominated. Very different, diverse universe today. And that's rewarding to see continue to thrive. But the amount of also females that exit the industry because of other work-life balances or other things, or for, other commitments, is still pretty high. So we still need to continue recruiting and empowering our women and grow them professionally. So that's where the BRGs, I would also say there's a tremendous amount of local chapters that meet up, and I'm involved in some of those, like the IAMCP and some of the local women chapters that really provide a great ecosystem of mentors, mentorees, but then even just exposure to the industry. Sierra Women of the Channel is a great avenue of that. But I think just getting engaged and connecting socially and through LinkedIn. I've mentored several university students, and some of them have pursued career in technology, and some of them have gone into other industries, but I'm continuing to connect with them on a regular basis. And then most of the time they come back and it has a technology component to it. And one that I would say, is interesting is I remember bringing my niece to a TD SYNNEX. It was many years ago, Bring Your Child to Work Day. And so my niece sat in my cube, and she always told me, Auntie, I never wanted to do what you do because you travel too much and you work too many hours. But then I thought, wow. So I took a step back from that and reflected on that, because I said I didn't want that to be the vision for why to get involved. So, and the opportunity of a tremendous career that I've had for 30 years in this industry. So I really made a difference in how I approach with my ecosystem of my nieces, my nephews, or even just in local, kind of representation, to make sure that I was really showing the opportunity and not showing the hours and things like that. And ironically now, my niece sits and works at TD SYNNEX. So after many commitments of saying that she wasn't going to, she does today. And I've actually brought in some other great talent into the organization. And that's just, in seeing them grow, that's the biggest reward for all of us, whether you're on stage as a VP like we all have been at some part over the last couple of days, showing use cases and real life examples of how we help empower our partners and bring value to them. But honestly, the biggest reward that I get is when I can see my team grow professionally and get advancement. And that sometimes is internally, sometimes it's in my organization, sometimes it's in other organizations, but or outside. That's the most rewarding we can all get.
Okay. Tracy Holtz, Vice President of Cloud, TD SYNNEX, thank you so much for taking time out and joining us here on the show.
Well, thank you both very much for the opportunity, and thank you for the time. It's great to have the opportunity to connect again, you dear friends.
Certainly is. Well, folks, we are going to take another quick break here. On the other side of that, Eric and I are going to share some final thoughts about Inspire 2025 and these 2 interviews that you've just enjoyed. We'll have a little fun. We'll wrap up the show. Stick around. We're coming right back. And welcome back to part 3 of this episode of the MSP Chat podcast. And once again, we thank Ed Morales and Tracy Holtz of TD SYNNEX for taking some time out from a busy conference to sit down with us for those 2 very interesting conversations. Obviously, a ton we could dive into there. I'll start maybe with where we left off at the end of the conversation with Tracy, when she was kind of talking about what she does personally, what TD SYNNEX does to recruit and advance women within the organization. And just in case it wasn't 100% obvious, this isn't like feel-good kind of stuff. I mean, we know how badly the industry needs to fill the pipeline with more talented people out there. And how hard it can be to recruit and so on. And to the degree that there are a lot of women out there who don't even really consider a career in technology for a whole range of reasons. Anything you can do to kind of overcome that. I mean, it literally, as an MSP or as a vendor, it's going to give you a competitive edge. If you have this deeper, wider candidate pool for positions than your competitors do, you're looking at talent that your competitors are ignoring. So good advice from her on some tactics and techniques and methodologies that work to achieve the very impressive success based on what we saw on stage at Inspire at TD SYNNEX in terms of getting women in, not even put into the industry, but in leadership positions there. And then the other thing, and I'm sure we've spoken about this on the podcast in the past as well, but the key takeaway from the Ed Morales conversation, obviously, is that just as you were kind of saying earlier in the show, Eric, there's this kind of preparatory work you have to do with the customer before you can really deliver value around AI. Infrastructure is a piece of that. And it tends to get overlooked. I mean, on Wall Street, they're interested in the power and the data centers and so on. But from a solution provider MSP standpoint, we're much more focused on the LLMs and the applications and the software. But there really is an infrastructure play as well. And it comes early in the life cycle of these AI solutions. So it's something to be thinking about now.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that's going to perk the ears up of a lot of our listeners to say, oh, holy cow, this is a large project that needs to include infrastructure and we need to rip and replace. And again, I think I mentioned a statistic that I saw Jay McBain share on stage at PAX8 Beyond, and it was something like 86 or 87% of businesses either are adopting AI somehow with these chatbots or want to adopt AI. So, like I said earlier, Rich, as long as your wallet is commensurate with your desire, I mean, these are really good projects that create a lot of stickiness for partners. I mean, other than cybersecurity, AI, I think even lends itself more to that the phrase that we banter about here every once in a while is like moving the value of your MSP from the server room to the boardroom, when we're actually able to demonstrate real ROI, not in 6 months, but over the course of that first 12-month period. So another quick tip for the MSPs is like identify what success looks like for the client, because it may not be a hard dollar of ROI that they're looking for. It could be, we need to solve this convoluted workflow. I need some agents for, my HR team, my finance team, to make sure that, we can be more efficient, or we're just backlogged on some of the stuff. Can we clear some of that clutter? So be really keen around, identifying these success criteria that, sometimes aren't quantitative, but really qualitative for the environment. It could be boosting morale, things like that. So, just me thinking out loud about all the different ways that a decision maker sees value, and it may not be what we think they see value in. It could be something completely different. So again, just lots of more conversations and pre-qualifying when we're building these solutions, and then let them know, okay, we're going to bring in infrastructure too. Here's what that budget looks like now.
Lots of listening, very, very important always, and particularly in this concept because the technology is new. Well, folks, that leaves us with time for just one last thing. And we've been talking about AI a lot during this show. So let's wrap it up with one last AI story. And we're all familiar with the many different conundrums that AI presents us. Here's one that I, at least, had not considered in the past. Who do you ticket? Who gets the ticket when a driverless car makes an illegal turn? When a car being driven by AI deserves a ticket, who exactly gets the ticket? And this is an issue that came up in San Bruno, California, where the San Bruno Police Department observed a Waymo car, self-driving car, made an illegal turn in front of them. They pulled it over. There was nobody behind the wheel. And it's like, do we ticket the car? Who do we ticket here exactly? And what they ultimately concluded is there is no one to, and this might be the perfect crime, Eric, because they had no one to ticket for this illegal turn. So maybe just another reason for all of us to get into self-driving cars. I don't know. I actually don't know if there was a passenger in the car, but even if there was, do you ticket the passenger? But it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So
yeah,
one more thing to think through with AI.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, yeah, and I'm just waiting for Waymos. I want to try one. Riley, who edits the podcast, and his friends were in San Francisco a week ago or so, and they said we're definitely going to get in a Waymo. And they did, and nothing untoward happened. So that was good. They didn't get pulled over, so that's extra double plus there.
Well, I'll say this. We are at least tentatively scheduled to be in San Francisco for the Microsoft Ignite conference. Let's just make that a to-do, where we're going to go take a Waymo ride in San Francisco a few months from now.
Let's record that on video, and we'll insert it into the podcast.
Absolutely. And so you have that to look forward to, folks. You also have another episode of the show to look forward to a week from now. We thank you for joining us to listen or watch this episode of the show. And I will just remind you, this show is both an audio and a video podcast, which means if you're listening to us right now, but you want to check us out on video, go to YouTube, look up MSP Chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, but you're into audio podcasts, go to Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever it is you get your audio podcast, you're going to find us there too. And wherever you find us, please subscribe, rate, review. It helps other people find and enjoy the show just like you do. This show is produced by the great Russ Johns. It's edited by the also great Riley Simpson. They're part of the team with us here at Channel Master. We have all sorts of different services that we provide to our clients at Channel Master. If you're not familiar with who we are and what we do, I advise you to go to www.channelmaster.com and get the whole story. Channel Master has a sister organization called MSP Master. That's Eric working with MSPs one-on-one to help them grow and optimize their business. You can learn about that at www.mspmaster.com. So once again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a week. Until then, please remember, as we always urge you to, you can't spell channel without MSP.